Christian Mysticism and Mythology by Matthew Norman Wyman. Let's go back to the Garden of Eden. In the garden we know that there are two trees, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the one we were not supposed to eat from, and the tree of life. This picture is from a 12th century Christian church in France. It's a fresco showing the original tree of knowledge of good and evil and the serpent intertwined in its branches. A more careful look at it shows this. The serpent, having almost a tail-like head, is offering Eve the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, while the other end is a viper, so it's a trap. But she takes of the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, and as you can tell, this tree, which has a frog in its branches here, here's the frog, this is the viper head, this is the deceiving side. And here's another mushroom tree which goes into the ground, into the rock. That's because she's standing on the rock. So she's standing on the tree of life, but she's eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. In there you also see horseshoes or horse hoof prints. These are basically indicating the distance you have to travel to the mountains to find this particular mushroom, this tree of knowledge of good and evil. So you might say Eve was gatherer and Adam was hunter. You might say hunter and gatherer, although I'm not certain. Down through the history, we see that the order of the Catholics, and the bishops particularly, had outfits that matched the Immanuta Muscaria. And they even have pictures of the Immanuta Muscaria up in the top rafters of their churches in Ravenna, Italy. Here we see Jesus on the cross, and we see the saints gathered around him. And in the halo of those saints, we see bluing mushrooms. You see the halo and the bluing mushroom here. These mushrooms, the ones that you know, if it doesn't blue, don't bother. They all have that staining quality from the psilocybin contained in them. So the tree of life would be Christ, would be his body. Here's another picture from Ravenna, Italy, of an apex portion of the church. And in the tree, so you see centaurs. The centaur was a code name for the line of Seth. The Greeks came up with it. They saw the centaurs as a bad people that they had to conquer, and sure enough, that's what they did up until the time of the flood. But here, the centaurs are protecting the tree of life, which shows the dates. If you look closely at each of the dates, they have a cap, a stem, and even a little ring to indicate that they're the psilocybe species. At the ground, at the feet of the centaurs, you see opium poppy leaves with little fish tails. So that's the name of Gabriel, is the opium poppy. And we know this because Muhammad was taught all the Quran by an angel called Gabriel, the archangel Gabriel, in the cave. And what do we associate with Arab nations? Deserts, sand, oil, and opium poppies. Very popular. And this is Grunwald's The Resurrection. You can see how it kind of looks like a mushroom coming out of the tomb. Cap and stem is the body of Christ. Now the fall, the agents provocateur, what happened when we ate the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Digesting that, the women of the tribe decided that would be a good move, to eat this tree that would make us godlike. You can see here, these are art paintings or cave paintings, wall paintings from about 600 BC up in Siberia. And this guy's got a psilocybin cap, a little point on top, and it's definitely a male. Whereas the women have the hemispherical shaped mushroom, Amanita muscaria. So that was the choice that Adam had, was, do I stay with my wife Eve, or and eat of this fruit, or do I, tell her no, that she's done the wrong thing, and change directions? But we did. We went along with the eating of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and here we are now in a world full of chaos and fear. So if we would return, walk away from the Amanita muscaria. This is a Siberian shaman. She's wearing the shirt that represents Amanita muscaria, and she's holding the Amanita muscarias in her hand. They take a lot of knowledge to prepare, and the actual experience is not all that good. Here we have the morning glory. You saw the serpent in the tree, but the serpent was depicted as a snake. The snake plant, as it was called by the Franciscan friars and the Indians of Mesoamerica, this plant grows all over the world. You can buy them at the store. They're called heavenly blues. And you can see the hummingbird visiting it, which became one of its symbols. But this plant represents Lucifer's name. And here's a depiction of Lucifer as the Baphomet. He's got a caducus, or a sign for medicine, coming up from his groin area. Well, let's just look closer. The morning glory symbol is in the third eye here, a 5-pointed star. That originally comes from the 5-pointed star with the circle around it. We've all seen the pentagram on people. That's a symbol for Lucifer's name. Here we see the torch of reason up in the top. This has got 3 prongs, or torch of knowledge, torch of reason. And here again, the 3 prongs of the morning glory seed. You have to eat the seeds of this plant in order to become illumined by the serpent, by Lucifer. Don't recommend it. I've done it. It tends to make you think you're superior to everybody else. Not a real good quality. So, a historical overview. This is the lily on a shekel from Israel. And that lily represented the lily of light, or the fleur de lis, which was a representation for the mushroom. They didn't put the mushrooms out directly as often as they could have because of persecution from those who are not able to see this perspective. Here's a tree of life depiction. It's like a fountain, which is because mushrooms are 92% water, 8% matter. And you see the scallop shell, which was highly important throughout various religions and cultures. But the scallop shell was for Venus, the goddess of love. And at the center of the scallop shell, you see the pearl. Each of these has the pearl, which is denoted by a mushroom symbol, the cap with an umbo in the center. We'll look more at that later. Here's another one, much clearer picture of the psilocybins. This is Psilocybe cubensis, the most common and lovely of the psilocybe mushrooms. But here's it up close, so you can see how the artist was rendering it. The tree of life. More pictures. This is from the Assyrians. You have the cow and the calf, and from their dung comes up these mushrooms. Saint Isildur is called, the divine mushroom of manure. This is from the palace of Ahab, I believe. It's an ivory diptych. Let's go back a scene here. Yeah, an ivory diptych showing the mushrooms as lilies giving forth a capstone of light. So Jesus is called the capstone, and there's a story about the missing capstone on the Great Pyramid, which used to be made of gold, and it seems to have been a symbol for this medicine, this golden capped mushroom. Here's a Phoenician version of the same thing, the Sphinx. When you eat this mushroom, you might come across a riddle that you have to figure out, or you feel like you're going to die. But that's just set and setting. Here again, a close-up of the scallop, showing the pearl of greatest worth, or an eye in its center. And this is the Hamas, or Chamas, as it's called by the Hebrews. This is the hand of God, double-thumbed. It represents the mushroom itself. And in Greek culture, we see the line of Seth. This is Ares, and he is fighting, and the scallop shell is showing the mushroom connotation. So this is a pan-universal. Everybody had some knowledge of this. This is from the Dome of the Rock. You see the lily symbol in gold here at the center of this tree of life. Even the domes themselves were made to have a kind of mushroom-esque quality. In the Buddhist culture, you have the tree of enlightenment, which is called the Bodhi tree, and you can see how it looks very much like a golden mushroom with a ring around the top. Up at the top, it's got like a little ring around it, which is identical to the way the mushrooms grow. Here we have the archangels Michael and Gabriel. We don't want to leave them out. On this stone that Jesus is kneeling on is a marijuana leaf, and it shows each of the disciples are asleep while Jesus is saying, you know, if this cup can be taken from me, please let it be taken from me. So I don't doubt the scriptures, but I think to bring the whole thing to life, the plants, the medical plants, medicine plants, need to be added. Gabriel, here's another picture of the marijuana leaf in art history. This is the Church of Sacré-Cœur, or the Sacred Heart in France. And as you walk around the upper parts of that building, that cathedral, you find these marijuana leaves sculpted carefully on the lily leaf, or the lily sculpted into the artwork. So they were fully aware of the medicines. Here's a temple from India. I don't know which part, but this is basically all made up of poppy capsules. So every one of these kind of roundish shaped columns here at the top, especially this big one at the top, is a poppy capsule. You can see how they look like here. It's got the ring, the capsule itself, and then the crown. And here's a Buddha who's carrying the poppy capsule in his left hand.